Okay. Hey. Do not stand to speak anywhere on any topic till you have watched this video. Do not speak to any group concerning any topic until you have watched this video. Let us get right into it. Hello FIS, it's Robert Wilberforce here, coming at you with a fresh video right out of the FIS oven. But first of all, if you are new here, then welcome to the crew. My name is Robert Wilberforce, and in this YouTube channel, you are going to find numerous videos that provide you with executable knowledge on public speaking, personal development, and business growth. So go ahead and smash the subscription button if you are yet to do so, and let's get right into today's video. So I started public speaking back then in 2002. I was quite little then, and first of all I started speaking to a little study group in the church, and then I moved on to address the whole congregation of the church of about 2,000 persons, and then I found myself speaking to a stadium full of people, about 4,000 plus. I have never stopped public speaking since then, and throughout my years of public speaking I have made a lot of mistakes, which I have gladly learned from, and I am still learning. Which is why in today's video, I'm going to be teaching you or giving you 5 tips that is going to help you tremendously in this your public speaking journey. So 5 tips that will help you in this your public speaking journey. Again, I want you to know that today I'm also going to just be flowing. I have my scripts in my hand. I'm going to be flowing. It will help me to give you the value that you need to give. We are trumping all the formalities, all the technicalities of recording videos. We are just giving value back to back today, okay? So let's get right at it. The 5 tips that you need before you stand to speak before any audience. Tip number 1, do not stand to speak to any audience concerning any topic until you have done it before. Yes, that might sound confusing. Okay, so how are you able to have experience speaking to a group of people if you don't actually speak to a group of people? I see a lot of people come on stage and then they embarrass themselves simply because they have not done it before. Now, doing it before, I do not mean that you must have been a public speaker before you can actually do public speaking. I'm actually talking about preparation, okay? Here's a key phrase for you. Public speaking doesn't start in public. Public speaking actually begins in private. In fact, the public speech that you deliver itself is just a finished product of all the private technicalities and work that you have done privately. So do not stand before any group to speak until you have done it a couple of 100 times in your room. I recommend you start from your room first, okay? The subject you want to talk about, or just any subject, just pick it up and begin to do public speaking on that subject in your room. That is how to start. So until you have done public speaking like 70 times or over 100 times preferably, do not stand in front of people to speak. And the reason is simple. If you stand before people to speak, you may have the ideas. You may have written a well-edited speech. You know, the articulations are correct, the grammar is flowing and all that. But that is not the problem. The problem is, can your brain, can your emotions be able to support you as you are communicating those ideas of yours to a group? Because believe me, when you stand on stage, a lot of things come into play. Your intellect begins to play a part. Your emotions begin to play a part. So the question then becomes, are you able to synchronize your emotions? Are you able to synchronize your movements? Are you able to synchronize your hand gestures? What you are looking at, the way you are speaking, how fast you are talking? Are you able to synchronize all of this together in order to transfer a single message? And you cannot become a master at that by just starting on stage. You become a master at that by dealing with it back then in your closet. So that is the first tip that I have for you today. Do not stand to speak before any group until you have done it before. That is tip number 1. Now let's move to tip number 2. All right. I should give you another example. You should also utilize the trees around your house. Okay, you can also utilize the trees around your house. I love doing that. When I step out and then there are trees around, I go and I do public speaking to them. Let me tell you something. Most of the best public speeches that you have heard or you have seen people give, they didn't just plan to speak that day. Okay, it is just weeks and weeks of work, constant work, that is just being expressed in a few minutes. Okay, the flow, the way they are working with grace on the podium and all of that, they have mastered that art because they have been talking to trees. I personally recommend that you talk to trees around your area. You know, trees are very attentive living things. They will definitely listen to you. Okay, yeah. So let's move to tip number 2. Tip number 2, do not start speaking immediately you get on stage. I see a lot of people do that. Like, the moment they get on stage, they just begin to speak. That works against you for a number of reasons. Okay, you should not do that for a number of reasons. Reason number 1, the odds are when you get on stage, your audience is a little bit distracted. Okay, and when your audience are a little bit distracted and you begin to speak, the odds are by the time their attention gets to you, you have already started speaking, you have already gone a little bit far into your speech. They will not understand what is going on. They'll be looking at you with confused faces, and then your confidence will begin to go out the door. So the first thing you're supposed to do when you get on stage, simply to gain your confidence and to make sure that you own your stage and you own your audience, just get on stage and then pause for a little, for a number of seconds, 30 seconds, 15 seconds, not a minute please, a minute is too much, but just pause for a while and then to gather yourself and then to make sure that you capture the attention of your audience. Most seasoned public speakers do this. Okay, a lecturer comes into class and then instead of him to just start speaking to the class, he just goes to the board and he begins to write. Okay, he just writes something on the board and then he turns, faces the class, and he's like quiet for like 15 seconds. Now, the class was noisy before, example, but then after a while you discover that the class becomes quiet and everybody's attention begins to run to the lecturer. Of course, now he has captured the attention of the audience, but he has done even much more than that. He has built his own confidence. Okay, when you stand on a podium, your personality begins to permeate the environment, and once your personality permeates the place, you are able to, your subconscious mind begins to register that, okay, this stage belongs to me. Okay, confidence begins to go up. Confidence begins to go up. So tip number 2 is simple. Do not start speaking immediately you get on stage. As simple as that. That is tip number 2. Now, before we continue to tip number 3, there is something I want you to do for me. If you are yet to subscribe to this channel, I want you to go and do that now. I'm going to wait for you. And the reason is simple. It helps us to grow and it helps the algorithms to show most of our stuff to other people. Okay, this is valuable stuff and people should see it. So do us well by clicking the subscription button now, and then let us go right into the next tip. Tip number 3. Welcome back. So we just finished speaking about tip number 2 and we are moving on to tip number 3. And tip number 3 goes like this. It's simple. It says, do not subscribe to the notion of perfection. Do not subscribe to the notion of perfection. Most people do not even start their public speaking career or the public speaking engagement or whatever you want to call it, simply because of the notion that public speaking is about perfection. Let me give it to you this way. Public speaking is about effective communication, not perfect communication. Okay? Public speaking is about effective communication, not perfect communication. Perfect communication suggests that your motion on stage should be perfect. It suggests that your body movement should be perfect. It suggests that your articulation should be perfect. I am not saying that you should downplay all those things. You should try to optimize them as much as you can. But do not allow the notion of perfection to hinder you from starting. And the reason is simple and it is ultimate. People want to learn, people want to listen to other human beings, not to robots. Okay? Only robots are perfect, that they or programs that they do exactly what they were told to do, the way they are told to do it. There is no emotion attached. There is no humanity involved. People want to listen to other human beings. And the best public speaker knows how to communicate with empathy. He knows how to transfer emotion through his or her speech, which is why you should not subscribe to the notion of perfection. Be a human being while you speak. People care less about the errors you make, except the errors are tremendous, of course. But people care less about the little errors you make here and there. They care more about your message and how they are able to relate to what you're trying to communicate. So focus more on resonating with your audience as opposed to perfecting your speech. It is not about making your speech perfect. It is about resonating at the same frequency with the audience. So that is tip number 3. Forget about the perfection possibilities. Perfection, there is nothing like perfection in public speaking. You just need to start. Just be a human being. Just be a human being. Resonate with them, reason with them, empathize with them. Use your body language properly. Don't be cold on stage. That is what you need to know. You cannot be cold on stage, okay? If you notice throughout this video, that's something that I've been doing. I've just been myself talking. Okay, like what I just did. It's not programmed. Like I didn't plan to be doing the body movement that I'm doing. It's just me flowing and being myself. Now let me tell you this. Other people may judge what I'm saying. They will be like, this guy is not perfect at what he's doing. But you see, therein lies the problem. They will not do it because they expect a public speaker to speak perfectly, and that is wrong. But I am doing this, and people are watching me, and people are actually learning because they see that I am a human being. Okay? There is a way my body moves when I'm speaking, and I do not hide it. I do not act on stage. I am not acting in front of this camera. So because of that, you are able to relate with me as a human being. That, okay, this guy is a human being, and this guy can communicate. Okay? Yes, and I'm not shy while I'm communicating to you because I can be able to do that. I can be able to be myself, talk the way that I'm talking, not care about my facial expressions, my eyebrows, and all that, but just communicate to you as I am doing it. That is tip number 3. Trump the perfection concept, that everything must be perfect. Drop it. There is nothing like perfection in public speaking. Just start and keep optimizing, okay? Keep optimizing your processes. You will definitely get to a point where as you are communicating, you have less and less errors as you are moving on. That is the level of growth that we're talking about, and you should get there. But you are definitely not going to start at that level. You are going to start at a level where there are a lot of errors in your speech, and that is fine. The best public speakers, they mispronounce things. The best public speakers sometimes they choke when they are speaking. Not necessarily choke without breath, but like the words they are trying to communicate refuses to come out, okay? You must definitely continue to optimize your work, but there is no rule that says you must not mispronounce things. I have listened to a song before. From the beginning of the song, there was a mispronunciation, but they went ahead and they published the song, and the song is very powerful, and I love the song, okay? So you see, had it been they were hell-bent on the subject of perfection, that song would not have been published. So trump the subject of perfection, and let us move to the next tip, which is tip number 4. Tip number 4 says, don't forget to breathe. Do not forget to breathe. Okay? Exactly. You see, choking on stage is real. Choking on stage is real. I have seen it before. Someone stands to speak. The person begins to speak quite alright. After a little while, the person is gasping for air. The person may collapse. Like the person is looking for help. Somebody help me breathe. Literally. Now, let me tell you this. When you stand to speak, the requirement of oxygen that you need increases because you are speaking and there is anxiety, there is you are nervous and all of those things. The demand for oxygen in your body begins to increase. And because, okay, imagine you are drinking water. If you are drinking water without control, you may not take in air. It's just like that when you are doing public speaking. Or even singing. If you are singing and you do not deliberately breathe in, you are going to lose air as you are speaking. You may even get to a point where you stop singing because you want to breathe in, and that is very bad for a singer. That is also very bad for a public speaker. As a public speaker, you must get to a point where your breathing becomes conscious when you are on stage, such that your breathing now becomes a tool that you can use as you are flowing in your communication. Anytime I'm looking for air while I'm speaking right now, you will discover that it doesn't stop me when I'm saying something. But I take in air after I finish a sentence, and then when I finish saying a complete volume of what I wanted to say. Now, that is control of breath. You are able to control your breathing. Breath control is a very big subject on its own. We are going to talk about it sometime in the future as we are optimizing our processes and we are teaching you and you are learning. So we are going to talk about breath control, the right kind of breath that you should know. But for the basics of starting, just remember to breathe. Just remember to breathe. And that is that with tip number 4. Now, the last tip I want to give you for this video is this. Find your balance. Find your balance. There must be a balance between your standing and your walking, your pacing on the stage. There must be a balance. If you stand for a long period of time, you communicate timidity. If you walk too much, you distract your audience, okay? If you talk too fast, nobody gets what you are saying. If you talk too slow, you communicate anxiety. If you gesticulate too much, you distract your audience. If you don't gesticulate at all, you communicate impassion, like you don't have passion of what you are talking about. So you must find balance. And again, this brings me back to tip number 1, which is prepare well, okay? Because if you do this repeatedly in your room or to the trees around your area, you discover that you will naturally discover your balance of pacing, how long you should stand in one place, how you should gesticulate, and all the rest, okay? So find your balance. These 5 things, once you have put these 5 things into consideration, you can stand and speak in front of 4,000 audiences. In fact, let me tell you this. When I started public speaking back in 2002, I didn't know these things. I just went ahead and began my public speaking and began to learn from my own experiences. It will interest you to know that I actually started studying public speaking, like practical study of the subjects, in 2021. All the other public speaking things that I have done it, and then I've learned based on trial and error, which means, and I didn't die, and my public speech has been awesome because I have received many invitations to come and teach it. I've received many invitations to come and do it in many places. That means it is working. So what I want you to understand and take home from this video is simple. Do not run after perfection. Make sure you synchronize all these 5 tips that I've given you, and you are good to go. You are good to start. Accept that public speaking invitation. Go and speak in that group. Go and speak to that church. Go and speak to that congregation. Go and speak to that audience. You are capable of doing it. So thank you very much for being with me in this video. Feel free to give this video a like if you have gained value from it. And for me to get better and then to give you the best value that you need, feel free to comment the tip that is most relevant to you. I may take time to do a longer video or a more elaborate description of that particular tip. So describe the tip that is more important to you, and then in the comment section, we are going to move on. I will see you in the next video. Thanks for having me. Bye.